And welcome to Nancy's Neighborhood, folks. And I hope y'all are staying cool today because, honest to goodness, I thought maybe we were going to go from spring into fall, but we didn't. Summer snuck in there, and it's hot out there. And I mean, it's really hot out there. So be sure you drink plenty of fluids, stay in the cool, take care of your pets. Be sure you bring them in, or you have a sheltered place for them to be. Now, we started a conversation on the last show with Dr. Almeida.
Almeida, yes.
I did so good on that. I've been practicing. Dr. Luis Almeida, and he has written a book. He's going to be on staff at Lee University starting in September.
Yes.
Well, actually, I think the last August, whenever you
August.
all start. And he's written a book called Becoming a Brand: The Rise of Techno Moderation. Now, I don't know how many of y'all could see my book. I've got all kinds of little bookmark things here. This is fascinating.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely fascinating, and pointing out things to me that I thought, yeah, I see that.
Yeah, the book it makes folks think in ways that sometimes we don't like to think, like in ways that that bring some of I guess the other side of technology. When we live in a technopoly, as we spoke last time, we tend not to look at the other side of this conversation of innovation, and I hope that you like the book and some of the stories that are inside of it.
I really enjoyed it. Now, I have to ask you, what is a TEDx?
That's a great question.
Okay,
Most
good.
folks ask me that question.
Because I have no idea, and it was the whole first half of the book. You were trying to reach the summit and get to TEDx and a presentation. So tell them about that.
Sure. The TEDx is not TED. Let's start with that one.
Okay.
Because most folks get confused on that, Nancy, because they think, oh, well, Louise, you presented at TED, the TED conference. Say, well, this is a TEDx, which is a regionally based TED in a region. It's not really the TED conference that often is hosted in California. Is a regional event of the TED brand in your community. But TEDx, to answer your question, is an event where you bring speakers, usually, not always, but usually from your region, from your state, to talk about topics that would maybe change the world and have like some major significance. And I was very fortunate to have that opportunity. Now, as a college professor, it's interesting, and
that's in the first part of this book, yes.
Precisely, as you mentioned that. In our craft in higher education, we often go to conferences and we present concurrent sessions based on the research that we have done, which there is some research on that, as you already saw in the book. However, the way of how we categorize research, or quantitative research or qualitative research in higher education, may be a little different than some of the research that was actually included in there. In the book. Now we're collecting data and getting more, I guess, data, right? It's a data-driven studies, what we call an empirical study, to be able to bring data in and test the model that is inside of that book. But in higher education, what tends to happen is that if we don't go to an academic conference, and then it's really not research in a research university, which was where I come from when the book was written. And what tends to happen then is that talking at TEDx may or may not be even acceptable for promotion, what we call promotion and tenure purposes.
Right.
However, that experience I was able to speak with the dean and say, well, look at the amount of publicity that we bring out of this. It's not a theory, it's a model at this point. It's not really, we haven't tested that. We'll test that right now. But there is the opportunity for that to really become something very big and advance the brand of the university. And the dean back then really accepted that idea and felt it was a wonderful opportunity for what we call a faculty member on tenure track, and the university to increase its brand. So
PR for the university, absolutely.
It absolutely has had a tremendous impact because of the affiliation of the professor. And then I was able to go and represent the institution to the public, which I like to do. Here in town, I write for the Banner, for the Cleveland Daily Banner. I believe those things because not only it's good for, I feel that way, it's good for the university to be in the eyes of the public.
Absolutely.
It helps the professor and the university to connect with the community, and the community knows more about us. I'm interested. We want to be here in Cleveland, Nancy.
You're raising your family here, so you want to know what's going on, and you want to be part of it.
Yes.
And I think that's great.
And so those are some of the things that I believe in. And when it comes to the book, there was an opportunity to make that argument. And amazingly, I have presented in different kinds of academic conferences on a topic, more than once, but also have this agenda of going to the public and talk with folks about it, because this is not, I don't believe at least, that this type of content should only be seen by a small group of academians,
Right.
what we call the ivory tower. No. We have to have a larger discourse with folks and say, hey, where are you feeling on that human robot cycle? And why is that happening? So,
Right.
You know.
Now, I think I told you before, my son has a PhD, and he taught at MTSU. He's at Baylor School now. He was at the house Saturday after I got home from a conference I went to, and he said, I was showing him this, and I said, you may want to read this when I get through reading it, because I think it's very good. And he said, well, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to, if anyone comes into my class and turns on their iPhone and starts doing anything on it, he said, that's a demerit or whatever they call it. And he said 3 of those or something, and it's really bad. But anyway, he said, they're not going to believe me the first day. He said, I'm probably going to give out 20 demerits because the kids are not going to believe that I'm going to do it. But he said, I don't want them on their iPhones while I'm trying to teach whatever it is. And he's English and literature and things like that. He said, I want them to listen to me.
Well, that's why kids are going to school, to learn from the professor, and then maybe have that technology to assist learning. This is why, you know, I think it's a wonderful way of incorporating good teaching with technology. I don't believe, Nancy, that technology in itself is going to solve all the problems in education.
Oh, no, I certainly don't agree with that. Right.
Well, but there is this push of believing that the technology is going to solve all of that. I say, well, you're a former teacher, right?
Right.
So
Right.
we can talk on that even on a higher level. That and I'm not sure if you have heard that before. I'm going to introduce something to you, perhaps.
Okay.
That we are technology,
Yes.
right? Because we can actually make life of somebody else better. So by having a teacher in front of a classroom who can actually make things easy for kids to understand, we are technology. Now, if we have all this technology, but there is not enough engagement or
Yes.
feedback, well,
Yes.
how good is that technology in the first place? But in my career as a media professor, Nancy,
Yeah, and you're right there in the thick of it.
Yeah.
Media professor, yes.
but I say, but professor, you're saying that technology is not always good. I say, this is exactly what I'm saying. Because if you're using technology for good, it's all right. But what happens if that technology doesn't produce something good for the kids?
When I taught second grade, Sesame Street came on TV. And I thought it was wonderful. So my kids would eat lunch, and then we'd go in the room, and you have about a 30-minute downtime. And so I'd flip, we had TVs actually in the room, so I'd flip on Sesame Street. And I realized then that we were going from me teaching and doing my type of entertaining to the kids to entertainment on a screen. And since now we've just gone further and further and further with our generations needing to be entertained to learn.
The question then is, I'm very familiar with that. Now, the question that I often ask, and I have published articles, Nancy, on the effectiveness of technology in learning. It can, especially within video games. However, if I told you that about over 95%, of, if not higher, those articles that uses technology for learning don't help you to learn significantly more than without technology.
Right.
So why are we spending all this money on a technology that doesn't help folks to learn?
And see, I have that question as a member of the Brady County School Board, because what we're looking for is to be one-on-one.
One-on-one computing.
One-on-one. And I think that's great, and there are certain things that I think that's great for, but then let's close that computer and let's do some other things.
Yeah, one-on-one computer can be very interesting if used that way. And by the way, I'm not anti-technology in the classroom.
Oh, I'm not either, right.
We love technology, right? But it's this idea of believing that technology in itself is going to do the work of a professor. It won't do it.
No.
Because we know that folks learn by you giving a stimulus, you give a response, you give them some form of a feedback. So an iPad in itself, Nancy, is going to increase your overhead for the school district. I'm sure you all talked about that.
Oh, yes.
It's increasing taxes and all these things, right? But then which benefit do we have back in terms of achievement that we're going to get on that? That's a question that I have.
And I think it's going to take us a couple of years to know the answer to that.
Yes.
I don't think we can immediately, the year that we put the computers in every child's hand,
Yes.
know the results, because that child has to progress on through the stages of learning, and then maybe 5, 10 years down the road we can do this.
Yes.
Now, one thing I have always thought was interesting, you semi-mentioned it in the book, used to be a college professor, you had to publish or perish.
Yes.
And so now it's more like you have to be inventive or perish. You have to come up with an idea.
I would say so. Higher education is changing tremendously. You see, and that conversation is inside of that book.
Yes.
But you see folks working for a university that is traditionally a teaching institution. And because of the, especially within the public system, as the funds decrease, of course, the push for publishing and getting external grants increase. And folks who are interested in writing, for example, about technology in that system, that would be wonderful. It is a wonderful fit. I happen to like to work with the kids. I like to teach the kids.
I always loved working with the kids too, yeah.
That's why really coming to Lee University is a blessing. I'm so happy to be here.
It's a wonderful institution. It really is. Now, I noticed a couple of your chapters in here, and I told you, Lisa, we were not going to get into, we weren't going to get to half of these. But some of these that you have put in the book, you published in the Indiana Gazette. So they were not really blogs, but they were articles that were in that paper.
Yes.
And that's great. This is the one I'm really, the dark side of social media. And we're not going to have a lot, I'm going to have to get you back on to talk about that, because honestly, we're not going to have enough time to go into that, because that's something that and Bryce is telling me I've got 3 minutes right now, but that is something that was one of the sessions that we had on the seminar I went to this weekend. That's scary.
Very scary.
That is scary. But I love the American workforce tremendously affects digital depression. Since 1950, the American workforce productivity has increased 400%. But what's going to happen if we roboticize everybody?
Well, if that will happen, for sure, that's one of the biggest threats of technology to our national defense. I don't know if I published this article already. I think it was last week's on the ban. I think I talked about that.
Oh, okay.
Because if you reduce the amount of folks who are working in the workforce, what's going to happen to overall, what's going to be the systemic impact on our numbers, decreasing production, and what's going to happen to our local economy? It's a big problem.
It is. And that's another thing I've got to have you back on to talk about local economy, because because computers don't pay taxes.
Exactly.
And that's in this book too. Folks, I want to tell you about this book just a minute. It can be purchased at the Lee bookstore,
Lee bookstore,
or
yeah.
on Amazon, and it's becoming a brand, The Rise of Techno Moderation. And it is really, really good. And I knew that you see all these little bookmarks. I'm trying to find right now, but you do have a website. Tell them about your website.
The website, there is the www.technomoderation.com, and in there are additional resources about the movement of escaping the machine. Folks can go and actually get some tips on how to use this technology in moderation.
And that would be wonderful. And I will tell you something else. He has a little quiz that I took, and I questioned some of the things on it. But is this on your website, the survey questions?
This quiz is on our website,
okay.
And if the listeners, the watchers, want to actually take the quiz, be more than glad to give the code. There is a code for that. They are welcome to send me an email. It's lca120@gmail.com, or I can actually give that to the station and I can send that
that'd
to
be
folks.
great if Bryce gets that, because some of these things I questioned, because I said I don't turn my phone off, but I turn it to that, like the resting thing, and it goes when it's in, but I never take it into church. But one of the questions, did I leave it on at the bedside? Yes, I do, but I charge it there every night. So I didn't think that was a fair question.
Good question, though.
So,
I can answer
yes.
that, though.
So I made a 26 on the quiz, which means I am in the process of transformation.
Which I would expect that.
Okay, that's good because I had no idea. That smartphone is winning some battles for your mind. If you aren't on guard, you will soon have machine-like behaviors. So now I'm on guard. So hopefully I'm going to move down to 20 by the time I see you again so that I'm on equilibrium stage. But he has this, and this I'm sure is on the website too.
Yes, it's available also on the website.
The human robot cycle, and this will kind of tell you, it's up on the screen right now, folks. It'll kind of tell you where you are in the cycle, and I found out where I was, and I wasn't happy about it because I thought some of the questions weren't fair, but.
Well, this is why in academic research there's always like a room for error, right?
Yes.
So.
Oh, they say plus or minus 4 or plus or minus 3.
Well, this test.
I got you.
Yeah, this test is actually reliable. We did a test of reliability and validity to make sure that what the test was supposed
Right.
to test. And if we did like a test post-test for reliability, it's about 89% reliable, which within the social science is not bad.
That is not bad at all because social science is tough.
Yes, within 0.75 and higher, we're happy. Different
Yes.
than the hard science, was to 0.01, 99%.
Because
But
social
it's
science, I mean, today I might take a social science test, wait 2 weeks, take it again, and I'm going to answer it the same questions, maybe a little differently because of life experiences that happened between here and there. And so that's why if you can get an 85, 86% reliability on social sciences, that's great. That is great. Luis, I have thoroughly enjoyed this, and again, I have thoroughly enjoyed reading your book. I'm going to have you back on because y'all see these little bookmarks. I mean, we didn't get to any of them. We got to one. We got to one where we were talking about what's going to happen if the robots take over our lives. And but I want to have you back on, and so Bryce is going to put that website up there for you, and also an email for Luis, so you can, if you have questions. But folks, this is awesome, and you can go on Amazon and order it, or the Lee
University
Bookshop.
Bookstore.
Yes, they'll have it. Luis, thank you so much again. I
you.
have thoroughly enjoyed it, and I am going to have you back on because there's a whole lot of things we didn't get to today.
Thank you.
So thank you. Folks, we'll be right back. I'm going to bring you the news and introduce you to someone new in our Bradley County school system, I hope. So, not that I hope he's new. I know he's new, but I hope he's going to get here. So anyway, I'll be right back. Watch our commercials and support our sponsors because they pay our bills. Don't go away. We'll be right back.